At the University of Iowa, in the College of Medicine, they worked with radioactive cholesterol and gave big quantities to boys with the following requirements: normal condition, not overweight, not older than 20 years. In other words, teenagers. They did it with 2 grams of radioactive cholesterol in a hospital-related facility supervised by a nurse and a dietitian. There was no possibility of cheating, and it was proven in an extraordinary manner that the alimentary canal of normal boys doesn't absorb more than 400 milligrams of cholesterol, no matter how much the person swallows. What does this mean? It means that if the alimentary canal is in good conditions, there's an active control function in terms of quantity. But they proved something else. How one of the enzymes, of the more or less 1,500 enzymes that are known in the world, which precisely allows for biosynthesis, in other words, the production of endogenous cholesterol, they had found the so-called hydroxymethyl-glutaril coenzyme A reductase. It allows the liver and the intestine to produce endogenous cholesterol. Then, what did these people do? By discovering the enzyme, they also discovered statins, which is what we all know is used to reduce cholesterol. Then they put these boys to work and said, "Let us witness how cholesterol drops sharply. Let's give them statins so the liver doesn't biosynthesize. In other words, it doesn't produce endogenous cholesterol. Let's take away cholesterol from their diet and witness how cholesterol makes a sharp drop, because there's nowhere to get cholesterol." The surprise was shocking. Cholesterol levels were slightly lower than normal. And then they thought about the 8.5 meters of alimentary canal. They conducted simultaneous hydraulic biopsies and proved a fact that few colleagues know. The alimentary canal produces as much endogenous cholesterol as the liver does, or more. We gradually see how all these active functions of the alimentary canal have been confirmed with the breakthroughs in biochemistry. Also, in 1991, the prestigious world-renowned magazine Nutrition Review, in its December issue of '91, published the work of Einstein and collaborators, who worked precisely with the overload of carbohydrates marked with carbon-3. And they observed that the overload in these normal individuals did not involve an increase of fat, as it is thought that any person who is already putting on weight will do so at a greater pace by eating pastries and candies. But it's not the case. It was insignificant, no more than 1%, 1 or 1.5%. But they admit that a chronic carbohydrate-loaded diet, a chronic diet high in carbohydrates, can evidently produce changes in the organism and trigger the production of triglycerides, in other words, endogenous fat. But initially, this didn't happen while the person was normal. So we reached the conclusion that the alimentary canal loaded with this sophisticated food, which man invented 2,600 years ago, requires time to fully stop these functions and drive them in a distorted way. In general, the fatty tissue itself, which has a ratio of 55% under the skin and 45% intracorporeal, in other words, inside the body, is a dynamic functional metabolic organ that is very sensitive to absorption variations and at the same time to expense, which is referred to as lipolysis. All this coordinated with messages from the intestine to higher regulation centers, namely the hypothalamus. With the cyclic messages that I have just mentioned and answers from the same, then the metabolic behavior of this functional organ of the fatty tissue will be conditioned by alimentary canal dysfunctions. But if not, there will be a perfect coordination from the standpoint of the lipid. In other words, there will be a regulated homeostasis, a total balance in the amount of fat required by man, and a functional control in the sense that it's an alimentary canal that has been recovered. It will absorb what the body needs according to what the body spends, regardless of the amount of food the person swallows.